888-988-40. And this is the debate on ENDA yesterday the non-debate in the Senate on ENDA. Now, you all know I'm a big fan of Ted Cruz. The guy has been fearless, but here's the thing I want to point out. Ted Cruz was AWOL on the gay agenda. He fought like a tiger against Obamacare. He disappeared when the issue on the table was the radical homosexual agenda. Now, again, I'm just trying to be honest here. I don't want to be critical of Senator Cruz. I don't know why he did what he did not do what he did. But don't forget that Senator Cruz had 21 hours worth of words to defeat Obamacare. He had 0 words yesterday to defeat the homosexual agenda. Marco Rubio, AWOL on the radical homosexual agenda. That's the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which threatens if it goes into law, it will threaten every single business in the United States of America, including the American Family Association. There are no protections in this bill as it is written that would insulate the American Family Association from a career business-ending lawsuit from a transvestite. We have no protection from that. And unless you think that this is just a fantasy, these kind of manufactured lawsuits, I've got a story in the stack. I don't have time to go through it, but ExxonMobil is one of the few Fortune 500 companies that does not have specific protections on the basis of sexual orientation in its personnel policy. And their shareholders this spring, we brought you that story, they voted 81-19 to keep it that way. In other words, the shareholders of ExxonMobil, which is one of the biggest corporations in the world, and it's in the top 5 somewhere, might even be number 1 or number 2, somewhere in there, huge company, and their shareholders voted 81-19. We're not going to advance the homosexual agenda. We're not going to give special protections on the basis of aberrant sexual behavior here at ExxonMobil. Didn't go anywhere. 81-19 got shot down. And so we commended them for this and all of that. Now, what the gay lobby has done, a group called Freedom to Work, it's a gay activist organization, and they made up 2 resumes. These are fictitious resumes. They're made up. They aren't real people behind it, which is another thing. These instances of this kind of discrimination are so rare, they've got to invent them. They've got to make them up. In other words, this is a solution in search of a problem. There is no evidence that homosexuals are being systematically denied employment or fired because of their sexual orientation. In fact, I would suggest that they are the safest people on the planet. Employers are going to be afraid to fire a homosexual, no matter how flagrant they are, flamboyant they are, because they're afraid that they're going to get sued out of existence or they're going to have the gay lobby landing on them like a falling safe. And I think that's what happened to Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and Rand Paul and Mike Lee. I think they were just intimidated into silence by the bullies and bigots of Big Gay. They said, look, if I speak out on this issue, if I debate against the special rights, special protections based on aberrant sexual behavior, if I speak out against that, the gay lobby is going to hammer me. They're going to drill me. They're going to attack me. I'm going to be the object of their vitriol, the object of their hostility, the object of their animosity, the object of their hatred. Who needs that? I don't need that. I mean, I don't know if Ted Cruz is thinking, look, I want to be president of the United States in 2016. I can't afford to alienate the homosexual lobby. I don't know if that's what he's thinking. I'm not saying that I do. But there was some calibration that Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and Rand Paul and Marco Rubio, some calibration that they made to hold their tongue while the radical homosexual agenda advanced. Now, what happened in ExxonMobil, this Freedom to Work group, they invented these 2 fictitious resumes, 2 fictitious people. These people do not exist. That's the point. They have to make these things up because they're so rare in the workplace right now. So resume A came, again, it's a fictitious person, but this person, highly educated, very accomplished, a lot of achievements, and was an out-and-out lesbian, an acknowledged, admitted, open lesbian. Applicant B, resume B, was from somebody that did not have a resume that was as stellar or outstanding as applicant A and was clearly not of the LGBT persuasion. Maybe their orientation wasn't specified, or maybe it was clear that they were heterosexual. Regardless, So they sent these 2 resumes in to ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil called applicant B, gave them a call back, did not give a call back to applicant A. In other words, what Freedom to Work had done is they had deliberately sent a homosexual an invented homosexual, to ExxonMobil to apply for a job knowing and hoping that that person would get turned down just so they could file the mother of all lawsuits against ExxonMobil, and that's exactly what they have done. ExxonMobil is in court right now defending itself against a charge of discrimination, and this is before the Employment Non-Discrimination Act even exists. Can you imagine what the environment is going to be for values-driven businesses if this thing is passed into law? And like I mentioned, there is no protection in this, no protection for the American Family Association in this. There's no reason why someone of a transgender, transvestite persuasion would not apply to American Family Association if this goes into law with the hope that they'll get turned down. They don't want the job. They want to get turned down so that the entire anger and vitriol and hatred of the gay lobby can come down on the American Family Association and we can be sued out of existence. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't exaggerate. That is a genuine possibility if ENDA is passed into law. As I mentioned yesterday, this is the end of First Amendment protections for every values-run business in the world. I mentioned I was interviewed yesterday by BuzzFeed. It's a political website. I'm going to read a couple excerpts from their story on this. The heading of the piece is "Social Conservatives Are Flummoxed by Senate GOP Silence on LGBT Anti-Bias Bill." Dateline, Washington. As the Senate passed the Employment Non-Discrimination Act on Thursday, just one Republican senator, Indiana's Dan Coats, took to the floor to oppose it. The silence from the Senate Republican caucus stunned social conservatives who have been arguing that the legislation, which provides workplace protections for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender employees, will undermine religious liberty. Here's a quote: "I am mystified and deeply disappointed because there are profound constitutional issues at stake here," said the American Family Association's Brian Fisher. "The entire First Amendment is being put up for auction by this bill, and it's inexcusable that no Republican senators are willing to stand up and defend the Constitution." That interview was before I heard about Dan Coats making his speech, so there was one. "I believe they have been intimidated into silence by the bullies and bigots of Big Gay," Fisher added. "They know if they speak out, they will be the target of vitriol, the target of animosity, and very likely the target of hate." So again, we don't know why, but they entered a cone of silence, and it is that's very unfortunate. Every one of them has constituents who are going to be harmed by this bill. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, every single day we are fighting a winnable war, and today the Gap is proof. The Gap has become virtually the most Christmas-friendly chain of stores in the United States of America, thanks to your making your voice heard. Bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the Gap, and never forget, Gap proves we're fighting a winnable war. See you on Monday.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
American Family Radio.